The following crossroads ritual that I will discuss for Pomba Gira was inspired by Nicolaj de Matos Friswold's book, Pomba Gira and the Kambanda of Mbamba Inzilla. I think I'll be making a video in the future about other book resources in English and as we make videos on rituals that we've done. We arrived at the entrance of the forest sometime just before midnight. The night was cool, but the air was still. Off to the right of us, situated like an ominous jewel in an overcast sky, hung the waxing moon. Witchy, I said along with my friend Jessica in unison, stopping briefly to gaze up at it. Silent as race, we started down the sidewalk to find the entrance to the forest where we would summon Pomba Gira, Queen of Queens. Maria Padhilla Reina. The sound of a small river to our left helped muffle our footfalls, disturbing the loose gravel path as the three of us walked. We stumbled slightly over the uneven terrain as we waited for our eyes to adjust. With the help of Jessica's penlight, we began our navigation of the shadowy forest, searching for an appropriate spot for us to conduct our midnight ritual to Pomba Gira. We sought a T, or a three-way Y crossroads, where Pomba Gira's strong, lustful energies may best be evoked, and brought into being by our magical ceremony, a place where she could best receive her offerings and hear our petitions. The three of us came upon a spot that seemed to be what we were looking for. We began setting up, but quickly found that the dirt in the area was far too hard and compacted for us to insert our 7 red candles into. I wondered if this wasn't a sign that Pomba Gira did not approve of this location. Jessica shined her penlight, and we discovered that our eyes had deceived us. What had looked like a three-way crossroad was an illusion. The interceding path was not a path at all, but a sandy outcropping in the bush. We would need to venture deeper into the ever-darkening woods. Guided by our intuition, we quickly explored the tangled trees and overgrowth until we happened upon a divide in the path. A large tree in front of a giant rock made for a perfect crossroad. Under the tree was a patch of grassy earth where candles could easily be worked into the dirt. We brought with us 7 red candles, tied with 7 red ribbons around each candle, with Pomba Gira's name written on each ribbon. We had 7 red roses, a virgin wine glass, and an unopened bottle of champagne. We carried with us a cigar and a white paper plate where Kevin had drawn up her spirit signature, or ponto, hours before. We set the plate in the middle of this three-way crossroads and put the 7 red candles in a semicircle around it. Jessica produced the matches, and she lit each of the 7 candles. She left another matchbook with 7 match heads bent upwards. I laid the bouquet of the 7 red roses next to Pomba Gira's plate. From where we stood, we could see the waxing moon peeking through the canopy of trees above us. The sight of a ritual space in the middle of the dark forest was both truly beautiful and a little frightening to behold. Kevin led us in the Kambanda cross. In the name of Nzambi, in the name of Ishu Meirel, in the name of Ishu Ray, and in the name of Maria Padhilla Reina, Pomba Gira, Saraba. Kevin opened his book with the evocation to Pomba Gira, Queen of the 7 Queens, the Queen of the 7 Planetary Mysteries, and the Queen of the 7-Pointed Star. As he began to read aloud, the air became charged. He began to feel like an electrical current was tickling at the back of his head. The lettering of the words began running around the page like ants, and he started to experience the eerie sensation of distortion that often accompanies hallucinatory trips. His words became a little jumbled, but he did his best to fight through it, completing the evocation. I then took the bottle of champagne and filled the wine glass for Pomba Gira. The champagne bottle was to be emptied of all of its contents, and the wine glass overflowed. A tangible sense of a presence descended upon all 3 of us as the champagne was poured. Kevin felt himself not being able to breathe slightly, and he worried he might succumb to possession like he had many years ago by the mighty voodoo Loa Simbi-Makaya. We all took turns making personal petitions to the powerful goddess Pomba Gira. asking for her protection, inviting her into our lives, and for her aid in achieving the necessary initiations into Commanda. Jessica then sang to Pomba Gira a haunting and tender rendition of First Aid Kit's song, Wolf. The dark forest grew strangely stiller, and the candles flickered wildly for a moment and began to point in the same direction and in different directions for a moment. Suddenly, a bumblebee crawled into the radius of the candlelight and dashed toward Pomba Gira's offerings. The heavy feeling of a possible possession lifted off of Kevin as the bee came into view, and the bee began stumbling around as if it were intoxicated. I asked if the bee was okay, as it seemed to dance about the offering plate. It seemed to be drunk, tasting the champagne, crawling over the still smoking cigar, and systematically touching each of the 7 red candles and roses before burrowing itself into the bouquet of the 7 red roses. We watched in silent wonder as the bee whirled around the offering and then made a beeline towards Jessica, touching the large red rose that was printed on her black skirt on her knee before rushing back to Pomba Gira's offering plate. Our Tata in South America would later tell us that the bee was possessed by Pomba Gira, and it could have transferred the possession to Jessica had the bee touched her skin. It's our opinion that Pomba Gira took possession of the bee to sample her offerings, and then introduced herself in a very physical way to our friend Jessica. We decided that the ritual offering for Pomba Gira had come to its logical ending point and gathered up our things to leave. Kevin snuffed out the 7 red candles, and we left the offering intact, so that Pomba Gira might come back to it as she pleased and at her leisure. The energy of the force as we left was much lighter than when we first entered. The heaviness had dissipated, and we often wondered how long we had been in the forest. The rituals often evoke a sense of timelessness. Walking back to our vehicles, we studied our feelings and searched our intuitions. We feel that this has been a successful ritual offering to the bold, beautiful Pomba Gira. All 3 of us have noticed a definite increase of her presence in our lives, and we all 3 seek to walk the path of Combanda for as long as the road allows.